Thanks for joining me today, Betsy. So what are ways a company can continue to nurture its culture once it's branded and captured it?
I think every company does something a little bit different, but I think as long as there is time allocated and that it's meaningful and important, just as much as any other meeting that we all find time to schedule. That's what companies are doing, so that they aren't just sort of talking about it once a year or talking about it when a consultant comes in to help them to define it, but actually it's really part of their day-to-day.
What if your culture isn't that great? What are some things you can do to try to attract the right kinds of talent?
I think that it's a baby step process. They're certainly going to have to engage or look at what are the indicators that people aren't staying. I think that companies just need to start to have the conversation about why that would be, why it's important. I think manufacturing is one that's really struggling to attract younger talent, and they kind of don't know what they don't know. So this is a place where we can start to go down a path of, well, what do we invest in now that we're proud of? What can we start to communicate, and how do we grow and build on that?
And you talked about how it can be scary to dive into that culture if maybe you're not starting at a great point. Mm-hmm. It can be scary to pull back the covers and figure out what you're dealing with. But that's also, I think, the way marketing has started to evolve as well, because it's less about pulling together the flowery words and saying all the right things. You have to demonstrate that you're doing the things that support the things you say.
Yeah, actually, Tony Hsieh, the CEO of Zappos, says that your brand is what people say about your company when they're in the bar after work. So, this idea of crafting a brand and having it be perfect and, putting it out on our website is to some degree certainly the part that companies have control over, but there's also the live it part where people come home at the end of the day and say they really love working there, they stand by the product, they stand by their team, or, in some cases, not so much.
So that reputation is the most important piece of driving what a brand is all about, and culture certainly influences that.
For sure. That word reputation reminds me of Glassdoor. And I think a lot of companies are really afraid of Glassdoor and afraid of the online reputation that they've created. There's lots of ways for companies to have a voice. Certainly look at what is realistic that's out there, because that's also really good feedback.
It reminds me of the earlier days of social media when companies were really tentative about, should we even have a place on social media, because what if somebody says something bad about us?
Right.
And it's just so scary. It's relinquishing that control.
And to your point, the best thing that you can do is really address the things that you can address, improve the live it part. Who you are. That's what people share.
Sure, and the strong brands tend to be the really authentic and genuine ones.
Absolutely.